Well, we've come to that Torah portion. It's the one that everybody loves. I mean, what's not to love about a Torah portion that has a talking donkey? All right. Before we get there, a couple of things up front. I will be Bezrat Hashem, God willing. That's one of my favorite statements, by the way. My favorite sayings in Hebrew. It goes along, I guess, with something that my grandmother over their shoulder used to say, "The good Lord will and the creek don't rise." Well, the only thing I have a problem with that statement is if he's willing, doesn't matter if the creek rises or not. But I learned that statement, Be'ezrat Hashem, which is God willing and with his help. I learned that on my second trip to Israel from an Orthodox observant friend of mine, Ezekiel Poré, and it's just always stuck with me. So I will be leaving Bezrat Hashem for a Revive, be there Thursday, be doing a workshop Thursday morning, and also I'll be with the youth Thursday afternoon. I'm going to torture them for about an hour and a half, and then I will be speaking at the general session on Friday. I believe it's 3:30 Central Time. You can go on to Hebrew Roots Network, and I would really encourage you. We have Eddie Chumney. In fact, I'll be following Eddie. Oh, wow. Following Eddie Chumney. That's always an interesting place to be in the lineup. Holissa Allwine, Dina Dye, Rico Cortez, Keisha, let's see, Daniel Botkin. I'm sure that I missed Bill Cloud. Bill Cloud will be there on Thursday. And so you can go online and you can watch the stream. It will be there. I would imagine that it will be available on Hebrew Roots Network later on after the conference. So looking forward to that. Interesting. Okay, we're out of adjectives. Okay, we're totally out. Doesn't take me long to run out of adjectives, but we're totally out of adjectives to describe these days. Was just talking to Hanok about this. We recorded our Israel update. I think I really enjoyed it. We were talking a lot about the restoration. Asked him about his favorite verse, and it kind of ran on from there. So listen to that if you would like. But you just don't really know what to expect right now on a daily basis, except for there's probably going to be more chaos, more confusion. What do we know? We really don't. But I do want to address something. There are videos that are out there by the multitudes. If you're on Facebook Messenger, Instagram, or whatever other kind of thing that you follow, it is, you can literally find yourself like a termite in a yo-yo, trying to figure out which way is up and which way is down. It's an amazing time, yes, but it is one that we need. What I think is one of the greatest needs for us is discernment. And you're going to be seeing as you do that, is it 5G? Was it this? Was it that? Was it the other thing? Okay, let's set that aside for a moment, not dissecting the plagues, but looking forward to where this is going. I personally believe it's going toward the restoration of all things. It's a time that the book of Matthew chapter 24, Yeshua says, you're going to have to walk through this. There's a generation that's going to walk through it, and there's no way around it. There's no detour, there's no shortcuts. Okay, so that's the way it's going to be. There are many people that are coming out and doing videos prophesying of, great revival or great this or great the other thing. And once again, most people tend to listen to what agrees with where they want to go. So if your mindset is on making exile great again, then that's where you're going to tend to go. If your mindset is more kingdom minded, you understand that the nations of exile must give way to his kingdom. This is all going to determine in the end what you listen to and what you kind of throw away as I don't need that. Recently, I've been sent a video by a guy, pastor. I don't know anything about him, did not research him, I just took it at face value. His name is Dana. He's got a reddish, pinkish something shirt on, and he talks about some dreams that he had. Okay, is this guy on or not? We're gonna have to find out. But what he's saying is resonating with me and with a number of other people. We see what has happened in the past. There is what he is describing is like an eye of a storm. I've been through many hurricanes, tornado. That eye is a false sense of security where it appears that things are coming back to a almost normal stage, though there's destruction around you. The backside of the storm is actually the most dangerous. Trees, limbs, things that have kind of come loose because of the front side of the storm are now more susceptible to being blown around on the backside of the storm. This pastor is saying that November is going to be a time in which it's going to just go to another level. Do I believe that is true? I don't. I don't have a yes or no answer to that. All I can do is, in preparing for, look to what I can do today. Okay, I can't do anything about November here on June 30th. Imagine that. We're 6 months through 2020. I will tell you this from someone that has been known through the years to teach on preparedness, that do not put yourself, now this is just my opinion, and this is just my counsel. You need to take what I'm about to say, you need to subject that to others around you, to your spouse, to the father. In the multitude of counselors there's safety. Do not put yourself in debt. That's never a good situation. But take what you can and put back a few things. There are things that you can store today that, beans and rice and good rice. Okay, don't buy don't buy Minute Maid. Is it Minute Maid? Oh, that's lemonade. Don't buy the Minute Rice, or you can't even buy Uncle Ben's. I guess they've taken that one down. Buy the better stuff that's going to last. Go online, figure out how you're supposed to store these things. Beans. Many people right now are raising chickens. If you're in a place you can do that, hey, kola kavod, more power to you. Anything that we can do, think about community, all right? Sit down with those that you can trust. And trust is an issue right now. It's been an issue for a while. But sit down with those that you believe you can trust and map out something that could be, what about these scenarios possibly happening in the future? But just leave one thing out of the equation, and that is fear. Fear is a 4-letter word. It is the opposite of faith, and the two cannot reside in the same person together. All right, with that being said, the Torah portion of Balak, Numbers, is Numbers chapter 22. We'll be back on schedule, everybody together here, I think in another week or two, something like that. But we're going to be specifically in Balak. This is a favorite Torah portion, probably for a number of reasons. Kind of as a childhood thing. Anyone that went to vacation Bible school, Sunday school, you heard the story of Balaam and Balak, and you couldn't figure out which one is right, but you always knew that the donkey was the one that talked. And literally, the donkey is like the smartest one of the whole bunch. I felt that way yesterday, actually. I went, our dog Kaya goes, she's Australian Shepherd. And so having an Australian Shepherd, she needs something to do. And just looking at me and Kathy all the time doesn't really cut it for her. So she goes to the dog park once in a while. Yesterday, I went to pick her up at the dog park and had to stand in line of all the people that are, away from each other. And I won't go into all the things that I saw because it just, I don't know what it does to me. But it really made me understand that the smartest ones at the dog park were not the ones coming to get the dogs. Okay, I felt like the dogs that were there were much more intelligent than the people that were coming to get them. I haven't asked Kaya about her opinion regarding her, whatever she wants to refer to me as, am I a pet parent? Do I own the dog? Well, I tell the dog pretty much everything she's got to do. So, and I'm the one that takes care of Kathy. Okay, so we're still pet owners. We didn't turn into pet parents. See what I'm saying? The donkey is like the smartest one of the bunch. Well, let's get into this. Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorite. Moab was very afraid of the people because there were so many of them. Moab was overcome with dread because of the people of Israel. So Moab said to the leaders of Midian, "This horde will lick up everything around us the way an ox licks up the grass in the field." Now, the truth is that there is nowhere along the way that Israel is the aggressor. The Hebrews in the wilderness are not the aggressor. They are the ones that are defending what is theirs. They ask permission, They ask permission. Can we go through your land? Can we get water from you? They ask permission. They don't go in and try to conquer. But yet, they're the ones that Balak is afraid of, that the Midianites are afraid of. Why? Because it's not about the land of Midian. But it is. It's not about the Hebrews. Though it is. It's not about the Midianites. Though it is. It's not about Balaam and Balak and the donkey. But it is. Because everything that's happening in here is happening for one word, and that is covenant. This is the declaration of the fulfillment of covenant. And what is the enemy today, then, tomorrow, yesterday, 3 weeks ago? What is he afraid of? He's afraid of the fulfillment of the promise of covenant, because the day that the covenant is fulfilled is the day that he is truly revealed as the liar and thief that he has been from the beginning. That's what this Torah portion is really about. It is the only Torah portion regarding the Hebrews since we met them back in Exodus. Well, actually, I know it goes back to Genesis, but we pick up the account in the book of Shemot, Exodus, and we move forward with them. And you talk about all of these things that are going on, but this Torah portion, except for the last paragraph, all of it happens without anyone in the camp knowing what is happening. Moshe doesn't know, not even Moshe. Miriam, Aaron, well, they're out of the picture. the people that are there, they're looking toward, hey, we're in our last days. We're in the last days, right? Okay. Yeah, they had that time too. And their focus is on entering into the kingdom. We could say it like that. They're going to be entering in, crossing the river. They're going to be, going into Jericho. Now they're going to become the aggressors as they begin to take over the land, but only to a people that, they'll be given an option. The Torah is very clear. Anyone that wants to join you is welcome, but they must live by the same Torah. But for those that do not and want to attack you and drive you from the land, those are your enemies. A lot of this is just kind of, if you look at it of what's happening today, it's playing out. Once again, it's playing out throughout history. But all of these things are happening without Israel having a clue of what is happening. I ask you a question. How much, and of course, this is a question that doesn't have an answer. There's none of us that can give an answer. How much is going on around us that we don't see? Think back about of your own life, okay, as an individual. Think back to events that have happened in your life. There's a mantra that is through people that are walking toward covenant is, I don't know how I lived through that. I've had story after story after story that's been told me about, how I was on the edge of something and it was like, I doubt if I'm going to live through this. That has happened so many times to people that are in this walk. Consider that in the end, what will the movie be? When the Father shows you your life, you're kind of walking around aimlessly, you think, but that flat tire that you got so angry about, well, let me show you what would have happened had that tire not gone flat. That backup in traffic that you were there for an hour. Let me show you what would have happened had that not have happened. I think we'll be totally, completely amazed, overcome in that day when we find out all that was happening in the hills around us, as it were, that we didn't know what was that was happening in the hills around us. Why? What has happened to the Hebrews? Okay, they've gone through Korach, they've gone through the community, gone through the death of Miriam, the death of Aaron, they've gone through the complaining, the plagues, all of this stuff. But they've finally come to a place of shalom in the camp. Finally come to a place of peace, a place in which they are at rest, maybe for the first time in almost 40 years, that they're actually walking in a level of faith that is kind of balancing out with the level that they're supposed to be walking. It's what should have happened 38 plus years earlier. They finally got to that place. They've gotten to the place of, okay, spies, shut up. We don't want to hear it. That's where we're going. It's taken them 38 years to get to that spot. And what do we see? What are some keys to this victory that they are walking in? I'll take you through just a few scriptures today. And first of all is in Numbers chapter 23, Bamidbar chapter 23, and we're going to go to verse 9. And you can read the whole thing. From the top of the rocks I see them. From the hills I behold them. Yes, a people that will dwell alone. and not think of itself as one of the nations. Remember the words of, was it Rabin or Shimon Peres, or one of the so-called leaders of the state of Israel? These people, most of them, well, I won't even go there. You know what I'm going to say. But one of them said, we just want to be like all the other nations. That has been the greatest downfall of a people called Israel for millennium. We just want to be like everybody else. But the scripture is very clear that we're not to be like everybody else. We as a nation, we as a people, we as part of the nation of Israel, the Jews in the Middle East, in Israel, that are following the Torah, those of us that are in exile, that are following the Torah, we must come to the understanding that we're called to walk a different life, but not with some chip on our shoulder, not with some arrogant attitude of, I know better than you. And if I was just talking to Hanok, if there's anything that's, kind of separates what we would term as the northern kingdom, southern kingdom, Ephraim, Judah, it's an arrogance toward each other. I know something you don't know. Instead of understanding that we must live alone as a community. Oxymoron, okay? We must live alone, but as a community, but our aloneness as the community is designed to gather others unto us so they can also be alone within the community. Hope you're following me. Maybe not, okay? But our separateness, we are called to be a different people, a peculiar people. I know some have taken that to an extreme, really. We're to be different than the world in our actions, in our vocabulary. Okay? Our speech should be different. What we do should be different. It's been something that has intrigued me, bothered me, whatever, for years. That the average, and I'm not being judgmental here, okay? This is just a statement. Ride with me for a moment. The average Christian looks no different than the average anybody else today, except for maybe, between 11 and 12 on Sunday. But the average Hebrew roots, Messianic kind of person, many times looks no different. Maybe you got some, you're wearing your tzitzit, but in your speech, your actions, what motivates you, what entertains you, is there really a difference? Got to get a hold of this. It's time to settle into the fact that it's not only is it okay for us to be different, but that's our calling. We're called to be different. Okay, moving on. Same chapter, verse 19. Elohim is not a human who lies, or a mortal who changes his mind. When he says something, he will do it. When he makes a promise, he will fulfill it. Adonai, I am ordered to bless. When he blesses, I can't reverse it. That what made these people what they were in that day is that they had an unwavering faith in unchanging Elohim. Get that? An unwavering faith in an unchanging Elohim. You could put it like this. The beginning of their book was lining up with the end of their book. And if you and I don't have that, if you have verses over here toward the end that don't line up with verses in the front, something needs to change. And it's not about going to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and, looking at Rabbi Google to see if you can find somebody that agrees with you. We need to look at the Word and see if I'm in agreement with it. And it's not about it agreeing with me. There's times that the Word does not agree with me. It's just is. I mean, I read things and it's like, I don't agree with that. And then you come to the realization and that's not his problem. That's my problem. Because there's not a single time in my life so far that I've convinced him to change. Now, I know that maybe you folks have never tried that. Right? Yeah, sure. Yeah, you've never tried to, pray him out of what he wants to do. You've never gone and says, you really need to change your mind on this one. Hey, no, you've never done that. Right. Yeah, I've done it. I won't tell you how recent I've done it. I won't ask you how recent you've done it. But it's like, okay, just once, okay? Just once change for me. He's like, haven't done it for anybody else. Why am I going to do it for you? So I have to change to be like him, not expecting him to change to be like me. That his promises are his promises. And he is bringing his promises to pass, whether people today want to deal with that or not. It's like it's going to happen, and it really doesn't matter how your opinion is of it. You and I are not going to change what happens. We have a choice, talked about this many times, whether to fight it or embrace it. One of the two. We're probably all kind of dealing with that transition right now. Because, again, it's a lot easier to embrace that which you like to have happen. It's a little harder when things are happening that you don't really want to have happen. And then you've got to change what your way of thinking is instead of his. So they're unwavering at this point in their faith. In verse 22, it says, and this is something I think is very important for us today. In verse 22, Elohim, who brought them out of Egypt, gives them the strength of a wild ox. Thus no one can put a spell on Yaakov. No magic will work against Israel. Now, many of us probably came through at least a part of that little period of time. Thankfully, it didn't last too long. That there was a demon under every rock. Today, it's more like there's a conspiracy under every rock. It doesn't matter what those conspiracies are. There's none of them that are going to thwart the plans of the Almighty. Now, I mean, I kind of enjoy is a strange term here, but I enjoy kind of running down those trails once in a while. I find that if I do that too often, it's like a rabbit trail, and rabbits aren't kosher, so your end result is not going to be very good. You're going to find yourself in a hole with an unkosher animal. Watch how many rabbit trails you allow yourself to go down. And watch out when you find yourself down that rabbit trail too far that you can't see the actual trail that you're needing to walk on. Understanding this, that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. Okay, I've been to places. I've been to concentration camps. I've been to where I've stood there in front of the cell that Niemöller was locked up in Berlin for years. I've seen the Trail of Tears and all of these things. I'm not saying that nothing bad, in our terms bad, can happen to us, but only that which is allowed not for our good, for His good. And these are things, these are statements and words that we all deal with along this way. What was good from the time of the Shoah? Well, I guess the establishment of the nation of Israel, I could say that, but still there's kind of a major part of my brain that doesn't quite compute that. Okay, wasn't there another way to do this? Wasn't there from my viewpoint, a better way to do this? Okay, I could have come up with all kinds of ways, but again, His way, in the end, we will see is perfect. Might as well go ahead and embrace that one today, that what is happening in our modern life is just as perfect as His way has always been from the beginning, and will be all the way to the end. Now, going over to chapter 24 and verse 5, how lovely, and this is a favorite verse of mine, how lovely are your encampments, your tents, O Yaakov. They spread out like valleys, like gardens by the riverside, like succulent aloes planted by Hashem, like cedar trees next to the water. Read on from there. Now, there's a problem here, in that they're in the wilderness. But from the standpoint, from the vantage point of the Almighty, what is He seeing? In the wilderness, He's seeing tents that, okay, there's not gardens and succulent aloes and cedar trees. Okay, there's rocks and dirt that's in the midst of rocks and dirt. What is He seeing? He is seeing, when He looks down, when He looks upon Israel, He is seeing them not as they are, but as they will be. This is a major key to much of life. If we look at what is, we will never see what is. That's not just double talk. If we look at what is, we will never see what is coming, but is already there. Remember, when we go back, when He makes a promise, He will fulfill it. And this goes to the favorite rabbinic statement of mine, is that the very fact that He said it means it's already happened. I actually have an understanding of that saying inside of me. I've said this story, it's been a long time ago, but I was in Israel. This is back 6-7 years ago. I was up on Har Brakah, and it was during the time of the harvest. And we're standing there on the hillside, and a lady comes walking over to me. She says, "Could I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." Now, we're staying in the midst of these kind of FEMA trailers, and there's not a lot of trees. There's pretty much rocks, and you guessed it, rocks. There's briars because it's a community. You know, the plastic bags get away, and there was some areas that, yeah, it could be cleaned up a little bit better, but nobody had gone out there and began to do that. And it just, from a natural sense, I mean, it wasn't Niagara Falls, whatever that, that's one I've never seen. But it wasn't the beauty of what I have here in North Carolina. And this person said, I just don't see it. Help me. And I said, and she went on and said, it's like everybody says to me how beautiful it is. She said, but I'm not seeing it. And I said, it's because you're seeing it as it is, not as it's going to be. And that's a major key of victory. It's a major key of faith. It's a major key of life. Not seeing things as they are, but as they're going to be. I stand there at the Western Wall, and though it says you're not to use a cell phone, I hear somebody next to me doing a business deal while they're, saying they're praying at the wall. I see, communities that it's like somebody should pick up some trash around here. Can't you do a little bit better than that? And if I look at it by what it is, it's just not that beautiful. But if I see it as it is going to be, which is how He is seeing it already, makes a great difference. Isn't that really the way that we're asking the Father to look at us? So if we're asking Him to look at us the way He is intended for us to be in the end, and to not look at us as we are, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of Adonai. I got it. But He doesn't see us as we are. He sees us as we are. Hope you get that. He sees us in Messiah and declares us righteous, though we're not. When we learn to see through His eyes, and maybe it wouldn't hurt for us to look at ourselves and, try to look at ourselves through His eyes and quit looking at ourselves like what I see. It would probably make a great difference in life. What do you think? So here's the declaration. How lovely are your tents. I see you as you're going to be when you enter in. To get a vision of that. I go back over and over again. I'll be probably talking about this weekend at Revive. I go back over and over again to Hanok's vision, standing there at Harbor Ka, at the visitor center, before it looked so beautiful as it is now. But he said, I was looking out over the mountains. He said, I could hear the tractors. I could hear the construction equipment. And I knew it was my brothers who had come home. People ask me, well, what drives Hanok? Talk about him without him being here. What drives him? I think it was that. I think a lot of it was that vision, that whatever it was, audible or whatever, I don't think he even today can describe it. But when you see what the Father has declared as already being, then that drives you through the time it takes to get from what is to what is. But there's a problem. There's a problem that arises in the midst of all of this. Again, Israel doesn't know. The Hebrews don't know what's going on. They're not seeing anything. The donkey's not coming down, with a report of what has happened. Nothing. And they came to a place, maybe of which they let their guard down. They've gone through some great victories. I've talked to Barry Phillips many times about this. He's taught on it. Your greatest time of vulnerability is after a victory. I won't go into personal things, but I can just tell you I understand that totally and completely. That any time you and I begin to celebrate a victory, it's a time of possible vulnerability. It was here in this Torah portion. Balaam, Balak, well, can't take him out one way. So let's send in some ladies. The wheels fall off the wagon right here. Because they go from, we are a people that don't live that way, to all of a sudden, maybe we can check this out. Maybe we can check out this lifestyle. And we don't, probably most of us do not understand. Maybe you've studied this a little bit, but the temple worship of Midian, of other nations, was not quite like the tabernacle, okay? You go back and study what was happening in the book of Acts with the temple of Diana and all of these different places. You have temple prostitutes. You have strangulation of animals. I mean, live animal that's strangled at somebody's hands, and they call that worship. And then the drinking of blood. This is what's being talked about in Acts chapter 15. The drinking of blood and the temple prostitutes and all the things that it's way out there from most of us nice Western culture kind of people, It's not something we're accustomed to, and that's a good thing. The world's getting pretty accustomed to. I mean, even in Asheville the other day, Asheville, North Carolina, hour and a half from us. Black Trans Lives Matter Parade. Okay. I'll just move on from there. They let their guard down. And when you let your guard down, it's not going to go well. And this man, and we'll pick up their names later on, but this man of a Hebrew brings one of the Midianite women into the camp. And it's not just, look at the wording here, it's not just that she was coming into the camp, but he had probably gone and been a part of the temple worship, over at her place. And so he says, wow, we need to introduce that to the Hebrews. That was a lot of fun. Maybe we can introduce this kind of stuff. I mean, this thing that Moshe's got going on, it's a little on the boring side. So let's just, come on, honey, let's go back. And the wording here is that they were heading to the Mishkan, not to his tent. He wasn't bringing her home to mommy, to Ima. He was bringing her into the camp to do the same thing in the Mishkan that had been done in the temples of Midian. Question: how did he get so far? So he has to enter in through the Hebrew encampment. He has to go through from where the encampment begins, and he's making a beeline to the Mishkan, and he makes it through whatever tribe it was, whichever direction he's coming through, and hey, what's going on? Hey, just kick back. Life is good, don't worry. Somebody else will take care of it. He then gets to the perimeter where the Levites are. Nobody does anything? Nobody stands up and says, excuse me. No, that's not allowed here. He goes all the way through them. He's running past Moshe. He's running past Aaron's son. This guy is not stopped. Why? Because nobody got involved. Because they're all kind of resting, as it were, on their laurels, whatever that means. Okay, I have no idea what that saying means. Probably some paganism, I don't know. Somebody will tell me. But it was one man, Phinehas, that we'll pick up his story next week. One man that stands up. Maybe in the same spirit of Aaron. It's not beyond comprehension at all to consider that Phinehas was there the day of the plague. He watched the whole debacle with Korah. He saw the community rise up. He saw the plagues that were happening. He saw the people that are dropping literally like flies. I know what that one means. He saw Aaron stand up, take it into his own hands, and do something about it. And he said, Aaron, yes, one man can make a difference. So when this man comes running by Phinehas, he knows what's about to happen. He said, not on my watch. One man stood up and made a difference. You and I, as part of a community, we're still called to be alone, if needed. If the day comes that everybody else is turning the other way, everybody else is saying, okay, that's all good, that's fine, no problem, I'm okay with it. I'm not. Prepared to stand alone. Yeah. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if that's what we're called to do in the coming days. Okay. Because wherever I stand, I never stand alone. As long as I'm standing with Him, I'm never standing alone. Shabbat Shalom. Shavua Tov. Have a blessed, prosperous week after your wonderful Shabbat. Bezrat Hashem. God willing. Good Lord willing. Creek don't rise. Yeah, Granny, even if the creek rises, He's willing, we're okay. Until then, until next week, be strong.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha וייחונך. יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.